What's cracking, yo? Welcome back to Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. As promised, I said once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I would release my top 10 players of all time. And while I thought I didn't need to think about it much, as I started putting together these rankings, I found it to be extremely difficult and found myself moving players up and down. I tried my best to be completely unbiased as much as I possibly could and really try to weigh things from as many angles as I possibly could. I started finding myself in debates with players where I would say, well, I think this guy was clearly the better basketball player, but this guy was still a great player, not as good as this guy. But when you look at what he was able to accomplish in his career, this guy had a better career with better accolades. And I didn't want this to turn into a better player versus who had the better career, because I almost felt like I would be copping out of the greatest top 10 players of all time. So I had to try to find as much of a balance between purely what you are individually and the team's success. I always thought the debate for the greatest of all time, or even ranking 10 of the greatest players of all time, is always a very nuanced process. I don't think the answer is ever black and white. I just want to say that players have to get ranked, right? So while there may be a player that's high on the list, and there may be a player that's low on the list, it does not mean that there's a whole bunch of separation between player A and player B. The majority of the players on my top 10 list each have an argument to be the greatest of all time and to occupy that number one space. It really comes down to the details when parsing these players against each other. So as you can see, I'm not doing one video where I just go through all 10 players. I'm going to release a video for each player with their ranking and a explanation as to why I ranked this player where I did. And there's going to be a playlist specifically for that, and you can find the link to that playlist in the description of each of these videos. With that being said, let's get into the player for today. What's cracking, y'all? Back again with my top 10 NBA players of all time list. So just to recap where we are, number 10 I had Shaq, number 9 I had Duncan, number 8 I had Wilt, number 7 I had Bill Russell, and number 6 I have Magic Irving Johnson. First, let me highlight a comment one of our great subscribers here put out. That subscriber, how do I cancel? That's the YouTube handle, how do I cancel? I love it. He says, where's the rest of your top 10 lists? All we got so far is Wilt, Russell, Hakeem, and Shaq, patiently waiting to hear your top 6. ... Don't blow it. That made me laugh. With that being said, I'll say this. There's going to be a lot of people very unhappy with my top 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, you can get away with that pretty easily mostly. But once you get into that top 5, top 6, and you see where people's favorite players are ranked or where their GOAT is ranked and it's not at the number one spot, people are going to start blasting me, and I understand it. But you have to understand, each and every one of these players have a legit case to be the greatest of all time. Well, most of them. And when I get to the one person that I do not think has that case, I'll let it be known. Well, the one in the top 5. There's one in the top 5 that I believe cannot be the GOAT. For a certain reason. But each and every one of these guys have a case to be the GOAT. And it was the reason why it's been taking me so long to get this is because I wake up every morning and I change my mind about where I want to place these people. For the longest, Magic Johnson was in my 3 or 4 spot. But recently, after giving it more thought, I've decided to bump him down to 6. And like I said, the margin of gap between all these players is 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 slim between a lot of them, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Um, so, with that being said, let's talk about Magic Johnson. So let's get into Magic Johnson. Start out with his accolades, his achievements, his stature. Magic was a 6'9" point guard, a true point guard at 6'9", about 220 pounds, drafted out of Michigan State, first round pick, first overall. Played about 13 years. Well, technically played 13 years, but really guy only played 12 years, given the context of his story. 5-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 3-time NBA Most Valuable Player, 12-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP, 9-time All-NBA First Team, All-NBA Second Team once, made the rookie team, 4-time NBA Assist Leader, 2-time NBA Steals Leader as well. All right. Very accomplished and decorated player is Magic Earvin Johnson. Now, we all know, and if you don't know, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Magic, along with Larry Bird, saved the NBA. And those two are two of the greatest pioneers in NBA history, if not of the greatest. They are the two greatest pioneers in NBA history, given the state that the NBA was in. Declining rates, people weren't showing up to games, people were unhappy with the product. The NBA was slipping, fading away into the abyss. And there was nothing anybody could do about it, except Magic Johnson, along with Larry Bird, and their college rivalry, coming into the NBA at the same time, rejuvenating and resuscitating the league into what would be one of the greatest rivalries of all time, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, Lakers versus Celtics, for years and years to come. Magic Johnson is widely considered one of the greatest leaders in the history of the NBA, and most people would say that Magic Johnson was the best leader we have ever seen in NBA history. He played with a smile on his face, but he could rip your heart out. Magic Johnson truly made all his teammates better. And you can sit here and say, well, look at his roster. Yeah, he played with a lot of all-time greats, but I assure you, he made those players even better than they already were with his pinpoint passing, phenomenal passing, court leadership, getting people in their positions, and just orchestrating the offense like we've seen no other player do in NBA history. Magic's passing, he, in my opinion, is the greatest passer of all time. This guy would throw balls to the wall, stylistic and fundamentally good passes routinely on a regular basis, right? You see a lot of players highlight reels. You could probably get 5 to 10 minutes of people doing great passes over a span of their career. Man, Magic was throwing incredible passes every goddamn game, damn near. Passes that'll just make you say, woo, I want to smack my mama. Them kind of passes. And if you haven't, you can go check out our Magic Johnson playlist, and I have a video, a reaction video, highlighting Magic Johnson's passing ability, and you can go look at that video and see the kind of passes this guy would throw. It's crazy. Dude literally had eyes on the back of his head. Forget eyes on the back of his head. Magic Johnson had eyes. For every pore on his skin, there was an eyeball there. I'm convinced. Truly. Magic Johnson, being a 6'9" point guard, was one of the big reasons. He was one of the major players in transitioning the NBA away from a mindset where players of a certain size are going to play this position. And Magic was one of the players that really changed the mindset and presented opportunities and a concept that you can put players in any position based on their skill and let them play to their strengths and their skill regardless of their size. We can thank Magic Johnson as being one of the major pioneers for the NBA trending that direction, coaches accepting that ideology and using players in that kind of way. It's important to note that and this is well documented, and I'm sure all you know this already. You all know this already. Johnson, Magic Irving, retired abruptly in '91 after he announced that he had contracted HIV. And he returned to play in the '92 All-Star Game, winning the All-Star Game MVP award in exciting fashion with a wonderful finish. However, players and people around the NBA felt uneasy about the situation, started protesting the fact that he was in the league, and at the time, there wasn't a lot of information on the virus. People were scared, people were uninformed, and there was a lot of misinformation going around. Then he retired again for 4 years. He returned again in 1996 at age 36, played 32 games, and then retired one more time for the third and final time. Coming into the league, Magic Johnson had arguably the greatest rookie year we've ever seen from an NBA team, or from an NBA player, rather. He came onto this Lakers squad, took over the starting point guard position, and immediately made them one of the better teams in the league and a championship contending team. And if you didn't know, in his rookie year, Magic Johnson led the Lakers to an NBA championship and winning NBA Finals MVP. What's even more impressive about that is in that final series against the Philadelphia 76ers and Dr. J and them boys, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got injured, right? So here comes Game 6 in Philly. No Kareem. Magic Johnson gets inserted in at center, leads the Lakers to a victory with 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. And that there was enough to win him the Finals MVP. Unlike anything we've really ever seen before. So much story, so much context, so much drama involved in that series, and specifically that game. Truly tremendous performance by Magic Johnson without Kareem. By 1984, Magic Johnson was pretty much the undisputed leader of the Los Angeles Lakers. And Kareem was no longer that guy anymore. It was Magic's turn to be the undisputed leader of the team. And I can't remember, well, it was either just before or during the quote-unquote tragic Johnson season, which we're not going to get into that. Every player in this top 10 has had bad playoff performances. Every player in this top 10 has had bad playoff games, series, whatever. Some players end up winning and it doesn't get highlighted, but when you end up losing, it gets highlighted, right? But I know even the ones that were able to win the game or the series, they had bad games. But people tend to forget about them. Some of them, because winning changes everything. But there are some players that have bad performances, and even though they won, they still get dragged for it. It's very selective. People can be very selective with these things. So I'm not, and I haven't really spoke about any of these players in the top 10. I haven't really bashed them for their poor performances, but highlighting their accomplishments, what made them great, and how they contributed to the NBA. Because that's what we're talking about here. Nobody's perfect. There's not a single perfect player ever that's never made mistakes, that's never had downfalls. It's part of your NBA career. It's part of growing as a player. Taking on these hardships, growing from them, and becoming a better player. I would also like to point out, Magic Johnson is still, to this day, the all-time leader in playoff assists per game at 12.3 and total assists in the playoffs at 2,346. He did that in 190 games. Second on that list is LeBron James with 1,919, and he needed 266 games and still hasn't breached what the Magic has done in 190 games. Think about that. Not to mention that during Magic's time, given the playoff format, less games were played. something else to consider. Magic Johnson is still to this day the leader and record holder for average assists on a career with 11.19 assists per game. I don't know if that record will ever be topped, but I don't see it happening in our lifetime. For an entire career, I don't think we're going to see that record broken. Not at all. Not at all. Magic Johnson doesn't get credit for being a clutch player. Like, a lot of times we talk about who's the greatest clutch player of all time, and we've had a lot of clutch players in the history of this league. But Magic Johnson will rip your heart out, can rip your heart out in crunch time. I've seen this guy hit some incredible game-winning shots, buzzer beaters, even from long distance three-point range, jaying these joints, bro. A lot of times, like I said, he wasn't really noted for his shooting, but when it was crunch time, baby, Magic could deliver. Maybe not on the level of Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, but Magic could deliver in crunch time. He was a clutch player. I promise you that. That moniker that's been labeled to him or attached to him of Tragic Johnson is one of those situations where a player has a bad game, a bad moment, a bad series, and they get this stink attached to them for a long time when it's by no means the norm for that player, and they'll have a much larger sample size of being the exact opposite of a quote-unquote Tragic Johnson. But you know how it is in this sports atmosphere. You do something wrong once, and they label you that for your entire career, like you've been that person. It's quite insane. Now, Magic Johnson, like I said earlier, led the league twice in steals, but generally Magic Johnson was not considered a defender. At times, occasionally, Magic Johnson was capable in certain moments of high leverage on some games, but generally Magic was par defensively and sometimes subpar defensively. I'm not saying that he was getting exploited like a Steph Curry used to do back when he was really bad at defense. I'm not saying that, but at times lackadaisical and average defensively. But he did have the ability to switch because of his size and mobility. He had the ability to switch on any given situation and not having to scramble to recover back to a player. Magic Johnson by no means was a lockdown defensive player and bears no All-NBA defensive selections of any variety. And like I said, for the longest, I had Magic higher. Like I said, between 4 and 5, but because of one of the reasons I marked him down and moved one or two players up ahead of him. One of the reasons is just because they were able to give me at least something more on the defensive end, more consistently, in a way that Magic never. And I looked and I researched, and everything I found is that what I said. He was mostly par, capable at times, and sometimes subpar. So for that, I had to notch him down a little bit, just because I didn't have enough of a sample size. I didn't have a large enough sample size of defense that I can tag to Magic Johnson. Now, with that being said, it's extremely difficult to rank these players, man, because part of it's the eye test, part of it's the skill set. You just got to take everything into consideration. And there's some things that certain players do better than others, but they have this or they lack that, and then that can shift the balance and the rankings. Magic Johnson wasn't much of a scorer, but when he needed to, he could step up to the plate and put up numbers in that scoring field in the box score, in that points area. But generally, he wasn't considered a shooter. He could shoot the three at times. He could shoot the mid-range jumper at times, but he didn't take a whole lot of jump shots. He really gravitated closer to the rim mostly. Had a nice little baby hook, nice little floater, nice little short mid-range jumper from time to time. But he wasn't generally pulling up in isolation situations on a regular basis with fadeaways like a MJ, like a Larry, like a Kobe. That wasn't really part of his skill set. But he still was an effective scorer nonetheless and had a knack for getting the ball in the basket when they needed one. And was capable of big explosive games. Now I don't think Magic Johnson has ever scored 50 in his career, but we all know that wasn't his MO. That wasn't his MO. Magic Johnson was a true definition of a pass-first point guard, of a pass-first player. He was all about bringing everybody else along. And a good thing about that is when you do that, it encourages your teammates to put forth more of an effort on the defensive end when they are being utilized, when they feel like they are contributing offensively. They feel the need to apply more effort on defense. I don't think that really goes, I think that goes unnoticed or unmentioned a lot. Is that when sometimes players start to feel discouraged if they're not seeing touches, if they're not getting the ball, and then their productivity tends to wane on both ends of the floor. It's only human. Magic is the reason why the Showtime Lakers offense was a go. Magic Johnson was the motor. Magic Johnson was the engine. Magic Johnson was the magician. Magic Johnson made that team go. Magic Johnson made that team fun. Magic Johnson is the reason why people were crowding arenas to go see the kind of things he would do on a game-to-game basis, the kind of plays he would make for his team. People wanted to go to a show, and Magic Johnson would carry the Lakers and bring the show to whatever town they were rolling up to that night. It was truly a special era in the history of Lakers basketball, Magic Johnson's tenure. He accomplished a lot in his 13 but really 12 years as an NBA player. Considering he has 5 championships, that means he dominated about half of that decade plus that he played, damn near half. And between him and Larry Bird, they took 8 of those championships during his 12 to 13 year career. Think about that. Think about that. Magic Johnson really truly cared about the game of basketball. Magic Johnson loved the game of basketball. Magic Johnson loved to be liked. Magic Johnson loved loving other players, even players who he knew, like Larry Bird, was his rival. He wanted to beloved that guy. He wanted to befriend that guy. Just out of pure love. Just out of pure love. And he became more of his rival when Larry Bird shunned him initially. But that was Magic Johnson's personality, man. He always walked around with a smile no matter what, most of the times. And always brought a smile to other people's faces. And that kind of energy resonated well with the basketball team and was a big reason why the chemistry was so dynamic on that Lakers squad. And as a unit led by Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, they were able to capitalize on a wonderful championship run during his era. Just want to mention some more things about his abilities. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but like I said, Magic Johnson was phenomenal with both hands. In the fast break, Magic Johnson was absolutely unstoppable. At 6'9", this dude has some long-ass strides, and this mofo was fast. He was fast, and he could dribble, like I said, right hand, left hand, pass, right hand, left hand. Dude was going behind. I remember one of these fast breaks he did, I swear to God, dribbling, little mini crossover, came behind the back with the right hand, came behind the back with the left hand, or maybe it was a left hand first. Might have been left hand first. Bring him back around in the same motion with the right hand, and either he did the layup or a fake pass layup or just a a no look. I can't remember how he ended the play, but I was like, my God. And he never, ever, ever had to look down at the basketball. Magic never had to look down at the basketball. Eyes up at all times. Not that he needed his eyes up. Magic, I'm convinced, could have played with his eyes closed because he had all the other eyes open on the pores of his skin that had a full 360 rotation view of the whole entire court. He knew where everybody was. It was incredible. And I didn't even watch this guy play live. I've watched DVDs, I've watched VHS tapes, I've seen games recorded, watched highlights, and I was just like, Jesus, this guy's passing ability, and he's a demon in the fast break, bro. Passes that you didn't think were possible. He could slip to his teammates. And playing with Magic Johnson, you had to be your hands had to be ready at all times. I don't care if there was a 700-foot brick wall in front of you and Magic Johnson was on the other side. Magic Johnson was somehow going to slip that ball through a 700-foot high brick wall, and your hands better be ready to catch it. That's how magical his passing was, and that's no cap. No cap. I ain't capping, bro. I ain't capping. Absolutely not capping. And I tell you, I love all these players on my top 10 list. I love them all, man. And it hurt me. Like, I would think about it. I was like, 6, man. That's kind of low for Magic. Like, you could easily put Magic 1, 2, 3. Easily. And it hurts. It hurt for me to put the guy in 6 that I put in 6. It hurt for me to put the guy in 5 that I put in 5. It hurt for me to put the guy I put in 3 in 3. It hurt for me to put a lot of these players in there because I know that each of them have a strong case. But unfortunately, these players have to get ranked, and that's just the way it has to be. Some people are going to be unhappy. But you have to understand, the margin of gap isn't wide. Anyway, let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure I could have went on a lot longer talking about Magic Johnson and what he meant to the game and how amazing of a player he was, but I don't want to make the video go on too long. But, you know, if you have any context, any information that you want to add to Magic's case, drop it in the comment section. I know I didn't tag everything. There's a lot to consider with all of these players, and I know that. And, you know, where do you have Magic ranked on your top 10? Do you agree with any of my reasoning, or do you disagree? Let me know. Curious to hear your opinion. I'm not perfect. My opinions aren't perfect, but they are my opinions. And while I do lay some facts out, obviously the stats and some of the things that happen in history, how I rank and why I decide where I want to rank these people and what I value more than others is my opinion. And I understand that. And you guys have your own opinion on what you value more when you're ranking your players. I understand that. All right. Appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified. And I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.